The story opens in a small, dusty frontier town, one where life moves slowly but rumors spread quickly. It is early morning, and the sun has barely climbed over the horizon, casting long, golden shadows across the wooden streets. The town square is unusually quiet today, save for the creaking of the auction platform and the low murmur of townsfolk who have gathered to watch another mail-order bride auction. These events, though practical for some, carry the weight of humiliation for those placed on display. At the center of the platform stands Elara Briggs, a young woman in her early 20s, her hands clasped tightly in front of her apron. She is dressed plainly, a faded blue dress with patches, her hair tied back in a simple braid. There is nothing about her that would attract attention in a crowd, nothing flashy or extravagant. And that, sadly, is why she has ended up here. She has been rejected by multiple potential suitors, each finding fault with her looks, her shyness, or her quiet demeanor. She has traveled across counties, sending letters to ranchers and widowed men in need of a wife, only to receive polite refusals or, worse, no response at all. As the auctioneer begins to speak, his voice loud and brash, Elara feels her stomach tighten. He introduces her to the crowd, listing her age, her skills, and her background. She's quiet, works well with children and animals, he says, emphasizing the practical aspects of her life, as if trying to convince someone that she is more commodity than human. The crowd's interest is minimal. There are a few casual glances, a smattering of polite nods, but no one steps forward. Elara feels a familiar pang of despair. She had hoped against hope that someone might see her beyond the surface, beyond the plainness and the timid exterior. Her voice trembles slightly as she speaks up, almost inaudibly, "I'm worth not much, sir, but I can cook." It is a humble, almost apologetic plea. Cooking has always been her strength, a skill passed down from her mother, and she hopes it might make her useful, desirable, in a practical sense if not for beauty or charm. Her words, however, are swallowed by the murmur of the crowd. No one reacts, no one seems moved. For a moment, she wonders if she might be sent away altogether, returned to the cold streets or a harsh workhouse. The sense of invisibility presses down on her. Just as despair begins to settle, a figure emerges from the back of the crowd. Calder Holt, a rugged, solitary rancher known in the county for his quiet demeanor and the tragic past that left him alone. He steps forward slowly, with the weight of experience evident in his posture. Unlike the others, he does not look at Elara with pity or skepticism. There is no gossiping among his peers, no whispering doubts. He simply observes her for a moment, as if weighing her silently, and then places a single, decisive bid. The crowd is stunned, some murmur in disbelief, but Calder's action is firm. He is not interested in competition. He is not swayed by appearances. He is drawn to something deeper, something the others cannot see. Elara's heart flutters with disbelief. No one else has chosen her. She had begun to resign herself to being unwanted, yet here is a man who is willing to step forward and claim her, not for the crowd's approval, not for convenience, but seemingly because he sees a quiet value within her. This moment marks the beginning of a journey, not just across the rugged terrain to his ranch, but toward a life where she might finally belong, where her worth is recognized beyond her looks or her timidity. This first part establishes the emotional stakes, Elara's sense of inadequacy, the societal pressures of frontier life, and the tentative spark of hope introduced by Calder's unexpected decision. It sets the tone for a story of quiet resilience, unlikely romance, and the discovery of worth in unexpected places. The moment Calder Holt placed his bid for Elara Briggs, the auction ended almost immediately. The murmurs of disbelief from the Crowd faded into silence as Calder turned and left the town square, his wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over his rugged face. Elara, still standing on the platform, felt a mixture of shock, relief, and anxiety. She had never expected anyone to choose her, and certainly not someone like Calder, a man whose reputation for solitude and quiet intensity preceded him. Her heart pounded as she clutched her small bundle of belongings, wondering what awaited her on the journey ahead. The ride to Calder's ranch was long and mostly silent. They traveled in his old wagon, the horses' hooves clattering against the dirt roads, echoing the uncertainty in Elara's mind. She tried to make conversation, asking polite questions about the route, the weather, and the ranch itself. Calder responded in short clipped sentences, never elaborate and never looking at her directly. Yet there was a steadiness to his presence that was strangely comforting. Every now and then he would offer a small, almost imperceptible nod or a quiet remark. "The horses are sound," or "we should stop before dark." It was clear that he was a man of few words, but every word he spoke carried weight. Elara found herself observing him more closely. Calder's hands were large and calloused, evidence of years spent working the land. His eyes, a deep shade of brown, held a mixture of sorrow and determination, hinting at a past that had left him wary of closeness. Rumors in town suggested that he had lost his wife and child years before, and Elara sensed the grief that lingered in the way he carried himself, in the silence that hung around him. Despite his distance, there was a quiet respect in his actions, a sense that he would not harm her, and that he valued honesty and effort above appearances. As they approached the ranch, the vast expanse of land stretched before them, rolling. Hills, grazing cattle, and a sturdy wooden house that had seen better days. The ranch, much like its owner, seemed both strong and isolated, a place shaped by labor and loss. Elara's nerves intensified as they pulled up to the house. She had spent her life being unwanted, dismissed for being plain or timid, and now she was about to step into a world completely foreign to her. She wondered if Calder had truly chosen her, or if he, like so many others, might eventually regret his decision. Calder broke the silence with a single instruction: "Settle in. I'll show you the rooms later." There was no warmth in his tone, yet it was not harsh. It was practical, matter-of-fact, reflecting a life built on responsibility and hard work. Elara carried her belongings inside, noticing how the house seemed both empty and full of memories. She could see signs of Calder's past, a child's toy left on a shelf, a rocking chair worn from years of use, and photographs of a family he had lost. It was clear that grief had shaped this place just as it had shaped him. That evening, Elara prepared a simple meal with the ingredients she had brought along. She wanted to demonstrate her usefulness, hoping that her cooking might be a bridge to acceptance. Calder ate in silence, observing her without comment. She feared she had failed to impress him, but when he finished without complaint, she allowed herself a small sigh of relief. It was not praise, but it was acknowledgement, a sign that her presence was tolerated and perhaps beginning to be valued. Throughout this part of the story, the emotional tension is established. Elara's nervous hope, Calder's guarded. After the auction, the journey to Calderholt's ranch begins, a stretch of miles across rough, unpaved roads and rolling plains. The landscape is as untamed as the lives of those who inhabit it, and it mirrors the inner turmoil both Calder and Elara feel. For Elara, the ride is a mix of anticipation and fear. She has been unwanted her entire life, treated as someone to be overlooked or dismissed. Now someone this quiet, rugged rancher has chosen her. The thought brings a fragile hope, but she is also painfully aware that nothing in her life has prepared her for what lies ahead. Calder drives the wagon with practiced ease, guiding the horses over uneven ground. He is silent for long stretches, focused on the road, the animals, and the safety of their journey. His quietness is not coldness, it is a shield, a way of managing the world that has disappointed him time and again. Elara studies him as she rides beside him, noticing the faint lines of grief etched into his face, the muscles tensed from years of hard labor, and the subtle ways his eyes flick toward the horizon as if always calculating what must come next. She wonders about the losses that have shaped him, the wife and child he once loved, and how those tragedies have made him wary of trusting anyone again. Elara tries to speak, breaking the silence with small questions. She asks about the route, about the ranch, about the work that awaits her. Calder answers briefly, often with 1- or 2-word replies, but never dismissively. There is a careful consideration in his words, as though he is testing the waters, evaluating whether she will understand the rhythm of life on the ranch and whether she has the resilience to endure it. Each response, though minimal, conveys stability. It is clear to Elara that he is not a man of idle conversation, but a man of action and responsibility. During the ride, Elara begins to notice subtle signs of his humanity. When a branch scratches the side of the wagon, he winces, then calmly adjusts the reins. When a horse stumbles slightly, his hand is steady on its harness, guiding it safely forward. These small moments give her a sense of the man he is not just the stoic rancher of local rumor, but someone reliable, capable, and precise. And though he speaks little, his actions communicate a form of communication far deeper than words as the ranch comes into view. Its vastness overwhelms Elara. Rolling hills stretch endlessly, dotted with grazing cattle, weathered barns, and the strong outline of the main house. Unlike the town square, this place is raw, real, and unpolished like Calder himself. The land has been shaped by toil, not by appearances, and it exudes the same rugged honesty that the rancher embodies. Elara realizes that she is stepping into a world where survival is earned and where every day is a test of endurance and skill. When they arrive, Calder finally speaks more directly. He instructs Elara to settle into the house and make herself comfortable. There is no grand welcome, no warm greeting, just practical guidance, but it carries an implicit trust. He has chosen her to be here, and that choice alone conveys more than any words could. As Elara moves through the house, she observes remnants of a family long gone, a rocking chair, a small pair of shoes on the shelf, photographs of a woman and child. It is a quiet, painful reminder of Calder's past grief, and it heightens her understanding that she is not just entering a home, but a space shaped by loss and memory. By the end of the ride, Elara feels the first flicker of belonging, tempered by the weight of uncertainty. The journey has been more than a physical transition. It has been a bridge between her life of rejection and the possibility of connection. Both she and Calder are cautious, navigating the fragile terrain of trust, grief, and hope. The long ride home sets the stage for the slow, careful bond that will grow between them, a bond rooted in respect, resilience, and the unspoken promise that perhaps two broken hearts can find solace in each other. The first full day at Calderholt's ranch is a mixture of awe and intimidation for Elara Briggs. As she steps outside, the vast expanse of the land stretches endlessly under a pale morning sun. Rolling hills, fenced pastures, and grazing cattle paint a picture of freedom, but also of isolation. There are no neighboring houses, no townsfolk within walking distance. The only sounds are the distant lowing of cows, the clatter of the ranch buildings, and the wind weaving through the wooden fences. For someone who has spent her life in towns and small villages, this silence is both breathtaking and unnerving. Elara begins her exploration cautiously, moving from the main house to the barns, sheds, and surrounding pastures. Each building she enters seems frozen in time, holding traces of the family that once lived here. A rocking chair sits quietly in a corner, worn and faded from years of use, as though waiting for someone who will never return. A child's small shoes lie untouched on a shelf, a silent echo of the laughter that once filled the rooms. Elara senses that this ranch is more than a property, it is a repository of grief and memory. Every corner tells a story, and every empty space seems to mourn a presence no longer there. While exploring, Elara notices subtle signs of Calder's care for the land despite his solitude. The fences are well maintained, the barn sturdy, and the livestock healthy. There is pride in every detail, a testament to the man who built this life with his own hands and who has endured loss without giving up. Yet the emotional atmosphere is heavy. The ranch carries the weight of Calder's late wife and child, and it becomes clear to Elara that she has entered a home that is as much a sanctuary as a grave of past sorrow. As she settles into her small room in the house, she reflects on the significance of her arrival. She is no longer merely a rejected mail-order bride. She is a guest in a space that has survived tragedy and solitude. Her presence, tentative as it is, begins to alter the environment. By being willing to work, to adapt, and to learn the rhythms of the ranch, she brings a subtle shift, a reminder that life continues even in places scarred by loss. Elara's first attempt at preparing dinner becomes a quiet ritual of proving herself. Using simple ingredients, she cooks a stew meant to nourish and comfort. Calder sits at the table in silence, his expression unreadable, yet he eats the meal without complaint. To Elara, this is a small victory. She realizes that her efforts are being noticed, even if silently. It is her first tangible connection with Calder, an acknowledgement that she can contribute to his world, and that her presence is beginning to matter. The day continues with chores and quiet observation. Elara learns the locations of the feed, how to care for the animals, and where tools are kept. Calder watches from a distance, assessing her work, offering guidance only when necessary. There is no excess of kindness or words, only measured instruction and observation, but this is the first hint of a slow-building trust. He is testing her resilience, gauging whether she can endure the hard life of the ranch and whether her heart is steady enough to face the weight of the past. He carries as night falls. The ranch seems even more haunted. Shadows stretch across the land, and the wind carries an eerie whisper through the trees. Yet in this quiet, Elara also senses possibility. She may have entered a house full of ghosts, but she carries with her the spark of life, of hope, and of persistence. Calder's solitude and grief are profound, but Elara is learning that patience, care, and courage might slowly bridge the divide between them. Part 4 establishes the ranch as both a physical and emotional landscape, a place of isolation, memory, and hidden grief. It highlights Elara's determination to adapt and contribute, while showing Calder's quiet scrutiny and protective instincts. The stage is set for the emotional growth of both characters as they begin to navigate trust, connection, and the possibility of forming a new family. As days pass at Calder Holt's ranch, Elara Briggs begins to understand that survival here requires more than courage. It demands endurance, skill, and a willingness to work from dawn until dusk. Part 5 focuses on her efforts to prove herself, not only to Calder, but also to herself, as she begins to feel the first sparks of belonging in a place that initially seemed cold and unwelcoming. Elara's mornings start before sunrise. She rises to the soft crowing of roosters and the crisp, early air of the plains. She learns to tend to the horses, feed the cattle, and check fences for damage from wind or wildlife. At first, every task is exhausting, and the rhythm of ranch life feels alien. She trips over tools, spills feed, and struggles to lift bales of hay. Yet each mistake becomes a lesson. Calder, ever watchful, rarely intervenes, allowing her to figure things out on her own. This silent mentorship is frustrating at times, but it also teaches her resilience and problem solving. Cooking remains Alara's most familiar skill, and it becomes her primary way of connecting with Calder. She prepares hearty meals that sustain him through long days of work, experimenting with flavors and techniques that remind him of simpler, happier times. Calder notices small details: how she remembers his favorite stew, how she leaves freshly baked bread ready on the table, and how she cleans the kitchen meticulously afterward. He says nothing at first, but his quiet appreciation is evident in subtle ways: a nod, a satisfied grunt, or leaving her a bit of leftover salve for her hands after a long day. Through her consistent effort, Alara begins to break down the invisible wall between herself and Calder. He starts to trust her with more responsibilities, managing the chicken coop, mending fences, and occasionally handling minor business dealings with nearby ranchers. Each task is a test of her determination, and she meets it with patience and tenacity. Calder notices the pride she takes in her work and, perhaps for the first time in years, allows himself to feel that the ranch and his life may be improved by her presence. Part of this journey also involves understanding Calder's grief. Alara observes him in moments of quiet reflection, like when he speaks softly to the empty rocking chair or when he pauses at the child's shoes on a shelf. She does not intrude, but instead offers silent support through her consistent care for the home and land. By witnessing her dedication without judgment, Calder begins to see her as more than a helper. He begins to see her as a partner in maintaining and protecting the life he has built. Alara's success is not measured solely in physical labor. Emotional intelligence becomes equally important. She learns to read Calder's moods, understanding when he needs solitude, when he appreciates company, and when a gentle word is enough. She realizes that trust is built slowly through reliability and quiet acts of consideration. Her ability to anticipate his needs and respect his space begins to soften the hardened walls around his heart. By the end of this part, Alara has proven, both to Calder and herself, that she is capable, resilient, and worthy of being part of this life. She is no longer the timid, rejected mail-order bride who whispered, "I'm worth not much, sir, but I can cook." She is someone who has earned her place on the ranch, someone who brings warmth and care into a house filled with ghosts, and someone who is beginning to awaken feelings in Calder that he thought were long buried. Part 5 emphasizes the slow, painstaking development of mutual respect and trust. It highlights the transformation of Alara from an unsure, inexperienced newcomer into a competent, dependable presence in Calder's life, while also hinting at the emotional bonds quietly forming between them. The foundation for romance, partnership, and shared healing is carefully laid through everyday acts of work, thoughtfulness, and persistence. Life at the ranch, while demanding, has begun to settle into a rhythm. Alara Briggs has proven her worth through tireless work and quiet perseverance, earning Calder Holt's subtle respect and building her confidence. Yet, the fragile peace of the ranch is not destined to last. Part 6 introduces external conflict, threatening both the stability of the ranch and the growing bond between Alara and Calder. This chapter emphasizes tension, courage, and the early signs of partnership forged in adversity. The first sign of trouble comes subtly. While checking the fences one afternoon, Alara notices unfamiliar footprints near the property line. At first, she brushes it off. Frontier life often brings wandering animals and travelers, but a lingering unease settles in her chest. That evening, Calder's usually composed demeanor becomes taut. His eyes scan the horizon more frequently, his grip on the reins firmer. He does not explain much, only telling Alara, "Keep to the house after dark." There is an unspoken warning in his tone, and she senses the storm of trouble looming. The antagonist emerges in the form of Warren Calhoun. a ruthless cattle baron who seeks to expand his territory at any cost. He has set his sights on Calder's ranch, believing that Calder's solitude and grief make him vulnerable. Warren's men begin appearing near the property, ostensibly for trade or casual visits. But their real intentions are clear. They are scouts, assessing weaknesses and preparing to intimidate Calder into selling. The tension escalates quickly. Elara witnesses the men lurking along the tree lines, watching the ranch from a distance, their presence both menacing and deliberate. Elara, still learning the ways of the ranch, feels fear for the first time, not for herself alone, but for Calder and the home she has begun to cherish. She approaches him hesitantly, asking what she can do to help. Calder's reply is both reassuring and firm. "You're safe here. Stay inside and don't interfere." Despite his words, Elara senses that he values her presence. He does not dismiss her outright, but shields her carefully from the danger. This moment is crucial. It marks the first real test of trust and vulnerability between them. Elara must balance her desire to help with his protective instincts. Over the next few days, tension builds. Elara continues her chores under Calder's watchful eye, but now she is more alert, noticing every unusual sound, shadow, and movement near the ranch. Calder begins sharing snippets of strategy with her, not revealing everything, but teaching her how to spot potential threats and protect the property. Through this, a deeper level of partnership begins to form. They are no longer just rancher and helper. They are allies, relying on each other to maintain safety and stability in a hostile world. The chapter climaxes when Warren's men attempt a direct intimidation tactic, driving cattle onto Calder's land to provoke him into a confrontation. Elara witnesses Calder's restrained fury as he negotiates their removal, his calm authority intimidating the intruders without immediate violence. For the first time, she sees the depth of Calder's strength, both in physical skill and in his ability to protect his home and the people he values. The encounter also highlights Elara's growing courage. While Calder handles the men directly, she observes closely, learning, and mentally preparing herself for the possibility of defending the ranch alongside him in the future. By the end of Part 6, the threat has not been fully resolved, but the foundation of a real partnership between Elara and Calder has been solidified. Danger has forced them into a closer, more connected dynamic, where trust, courage, and mutual reliance are no longer optional, they are essential. This chapter introduces tension and stakes beyond personal growth, demonstrating that love and trust are often forged under pressure, and that both characters are capable of rising to meet challenges together. After the initial tension with Warren Calhoun's men, life at Calder Holt's ranch regains a fragile sense of normalcy. The threat is not gone, but the immediate danger has subsided, allowing Elara Briggs and Calder Holt to focus once again on their daily routines. Yet Part 7 introduces a dramatic turning point, both physically and emotionally. A violent storm that forces them into close proximity and opens the door for raw, unguarded confession. This part highlights vulnerability, trust, and the beginnings of intimacy between the two characters. The storm begins in the late afternoon, with dark clouds rolling in over the plains and a sudden gust of wind rattling the barn doors. The sky darkens ominously, and the first heavy drops of rain begin to fall. Elara, who has been tending to the animals, notices that the young calves are in danger of being injured or lost in the rising wind. Without hesitation, she rushes to help, her movements efficient despite the fear gnawing at her. Calder follows swiftly, his presence a steadying anchor. Together, they herd the calves into the barn. securing the doors as lightning illuminates the landscape and thunder shakes the ground. Inside the barn, soaked to the bone and shivering from cold and fear, Elara and Calder find a rare moment of quiet, though the storm still rages outside. It is in this confined space, stripped of pretense and distance, that vulnerability surfaces. Elara's voice trembles as she admits her fears. "I'm afraid. I've always been afraid of being unwanted, of being left behind. I don't want that again." Her confession is not dramatic, but heartfelt, and it lays bare the wounds that have shaped her life. Calder, listening quietly, is struck by the raw honesty in her words. For years he has kept his grief tightly sealed, his late wife and child lost to tragedy, his heart hardened against attachment. Yet in Elara's confession he hears echoes of his own loneliness and pain. In a low, measured voice, he begins to open up for the first time since her arrival. He speaks of the emptiness he has carried, the nights spent speaking to the empty rocking chair, and the ache of a life interrupted by loss. His words are hesitant, but genuine, a rare glimpse into the guarded man beneath the rugged exterior. The storm outside mirrors the emotional intensity within the barn. Rain lashes against the wooden walls, lightning flashes illuminate their faces, and the roar of thunder punctuates the moments of silence between confessions. In this shared vulnerability, a subtle but powerful connection forms. Calder reaches for her hand, not a grand gesture, but a steadying, grounding touch that conveys both comfort and acknowledgement. Elara, feeling the first warmth of genuine closeness, allows herself to lean slightly into him, trusting him in a way she has never trusted another person. This chapter also demonstrates the beginnings of mutual understanding. Elara realizes that Calder's stoicism is not indifference. It is protection, both of himself and of those he allows into his world. Calder sees in Elara a resilience, honesty, and compassion that he has longed for, yet never believed he would find again. Their shared experience in the storm becomes a metaphor for the emotional storms they have both weathered separately, and the possibility of facing future storms together. By the end of Part 7. The storm passes, leaving the barn and the ranch drenched but intact. More importantly, it leaves Calder and Elara emotionally closer than ever. Their confessions, spoken in fear and trust, have created a bond that goes beyond physical proximity. The storm becomes a turning point in their relationship, establishing the emotional intimacy that will carry them through future challenges and solidify the foundation for love, trust, and partnership. The calm following the storm is short-lived. Part 8 introduces the climax of external conflict as Warren Calhoun, the ruthless cattle baron, escalates his attempts to seize Calder Holt's ranch. This chapter tests both Calder and Elara, revealing their courage, resourcefulness, and the growing strength of their bond. Here, Elara's role evolves from helper to active participant in protecting the life and home she has come to cherish. The trouble begins subtly. Calder notices signs of intrusion, fences cut in remote areas, missing feed, and suspicious figures in the distance. Unlike before, the men are bolder, their presence no longer a mere threat but a deliberate attempt to provoke. Elara senses the tension immediately, her instincts sharpened by weeks of working alongside Calder. She watches quietly, learning to read the subtle cues of danger and the signs of an approaching confrontation. One evening, Calder intercepts a messenger from Warren, delivering a final warning: sell the ranch willingly or face destruction. Calder remains composed, his jaw tight, his resolve unwavering. "This land is not for sale," he says, his voice steady but cold. The warning, however, underscores the danger Calder is now facing, a man willing to threaten lives to achieve his goal. Elara, standing nearby, feels a surge of fear but also determination. She realizes that she is no longer a bystander. The ranch is now hers as much as his, and she is ready to defend it. As Warren's men move in to intimidate, Alara takes the initiative. Drawing upon the skills she has learned over weeks managing livestock, observing movements, and understanding the layout of the ranch, she sets small obstacles, ensures the animals are safe, and positions herself in ways that will aid Calder without directly confronting the danger alone. Her courage surprises even Calder. He has always protected his home single-handedly, but now he sees that Alara is willing and able to stand by him. Her quiet bravery signals a shift in their dynamic. They are becoming true partners, relying on each other in ways that transcend mere survival. The confrontation with Warren's men is tense but controlled. Calder's experience and authority, combined with Alara's quick thinking and alertness, prevents serious harm. She guides him to strategic vantage points, warns of movements he might have missed, and even voices her observations about the intruder's tactics. Calder begins to acknowledge her contributions openly, his earlier subtle nods of approval now accompanied by words of respect and gratitude. This marks a turning point. Alara is no longer simply the woman who cooks and cleans. She is integral to the safety and operation of the ranch. Beyond the physical threat. Part 8 deepens the emotional connection between the two characters. In the quiet moments after the confrontation, Calder takes Alara aside, speaking softly. He tells her that her presence, her courage, intelligence, and steadfastness has changed his world. He admits that he underestimated her and that her willingness to face danger alongside him has earned his trust and admiration. Alara, in turn, realizes that Calder's respect is more valuable than fear or comfort. It represents genuine recognition and the beginnings of love, built on equality and shared struggle. By the end of Part 8, the immediate danger has passed, but the stakes remain high. Warren Calhoun has been thwarted, but both Calder and Alara understand that they must remain vigilant. More importantly, the experience cements their bond. They have faced danger together and emerged not only unbroken but stronger. Their partnership, once tentative and hesitant, is now rooted in mutual respect, courage, and emotional intimacy. This chapter solidifies the transition from guarded companionship to a true, cooperative relationship, setting the stage for the final resolutions of love, trust, and home. After weeks of escalating tension, the stakes finally reach a breaking point. Warren Calhoun, humiliated by his previous failures and determined to seize Calder Holt's ranch, makes a final, aggressive move. Part 9 showcases the culmination of external conflict while highlighting the emotional growth and partnership between Calder and Alara. Here, their bond is tested and solidified as they confront danger together, proving that trust, courage, and love can triumph over intimidation. The confrontation begins with Warren's men attempting to forcefully drive Calder's cattle off the property while intimidating him directly. The men, confident in their numbers, approach with arrogance, expecting Calder to yield. But they underestimate the resilience and resourcefulness of both Calder and Alara. Calder, aware of every inch of his land, positions himself strategically, while Alara, having learned to anticipate movements and read subtle cues, provides critical assistance. Her presence is no longer passive. She actively guides Calder's decisions, helping him respond efficiently and decisively to the threat. As the situation escalates, Alara takes the bold initiative to call the local town marshal. She rides through the heavy dirt paths with determination, demonstrating the courage and quick thinking that Calder has witnessed quietly over weeks. This act surprises even Calder, who has grown used to being self-reliant, and it signals a shift in their dynamic. Alara is now his equal in both action and judgment. Her bravery under pressure earns him a profound respect and further strengthens the emotional connection between them. The marshal arrives just in time, backed by several townsfolk who have heard of Warren's bullying tactics. The confrontation quickly turns from potential violence into a legal matter, as Warren is exposed for attempting to seize property through intimidation and falsified claims. Calder, standing beside Alara, presents evidence of the land's ownership and witnesses of the harassment. The collaboration between the two Calder's knowledge of his ranch and Alara's courageous initiative demonstrates that they are stronger together than alone. Beyond the practical resolution, Part 9 emphasizes the emotional resonance of the experience. Calder, for the first time in a long while, acknowledges openly the value of partnership and trust. He looks at Alara not only as someone who belongs in the ranch, but as someone whose intelligence, courage, and loyalty have earned his admiration and affection. Alara, in turn, sees that her efforts, her steadfastness, her willingness to face danger, and her dedication are truly recognized and appreciated. The experience deepens their bond, moving them from tentative companions to united allies with mutual respect and emotional intimacy. After Warren's men are driven off and the threat is neutralized, Calder and Alara stand together on the porch of the ranch house, surveying the land they have fought to protect. The wind carries the scent of fresh earth and rain, a symbolic cleansing of the turmoil that had loomed over them. In this quiet moment, Calder reaches for Alara's hand, a gesture of trust, partnership, and emerging love. They no longer need words to express the understanding between them. The trials they have faced have spoken for them. Part 9 reinforces the central theme of the story, that love and partnership are forged not in comfort, but in trials and shared responsibility. Calder and Alara's growth is evident. He has learned to open his heart again, while she has discovered her own strength, courage, and value. Standing together, they face the future with renewed confidence, ready to protect both the ranch and the life they are beginning to build. This chapter sets the stage for the final resolution, where personal commitment and mutual choice will solidify their relationship permanently. The trials and tension of previous weeks have finally settled, leaving Calder Holt's ranch and its inhabitants with a hard-earned sense of peace. Part 10, the story's resolution, focuses on emotional fulfillment, the solidification of love, and the creation of a true home. The story comes full circle, showing how Alara Briggs, once a timid, rejected mail-order bride, has found her place, and how Calder has learned to open his heart again. With Warren Calhoun's threats neutralized, the ranch feels alive with quiet energy rather than looming danger. Calder and Alara move through the day with familiarity and ease, sharing responsibilities in a way that feels natural rather than forced. Alara prepares breakfast while Calder tends to the livestock, and though they work in silence, the unspoken communication between them is evident. Their partnership has grown so that each knows the other's rhythms, preferences, and strengths, proof that trust, respect, and shared experience have replaced awkwardness and uncertainty. The emotional climax occurs one afternoon as they sit on the porch surveying the land. Calder, who once struggled with grief and isolation, speaks openly for the first time without pretense. He tells Alara that he has chosen her not out of pity or necessity, but because he recognizes her courage, kindness, and unwavering commitment. "I don't need much," he says quietly, "but I need you." For Alara, these words are profound. They validate her worth beyond skill or utility, affirming that she is loved for who she is, not simply for what she can do. Elara, in turn, expresses her feelings. She admits that the journey from rejection and self-doubt to this moment has been transformative. The once timid girl who whispered, "I'm worth not much, sir," but I can cook, now stands with quiet confidence, knowing that her value is recognized and cherished. Their confessions are understated but deeply heartfelt, fitting the tone of their relationship, which has grown slowly and meaningfully over weeks of shared labor, danger, and mutual care. The story's resolution also addresses the symbolic and practical sense of home. Elara and Calder begin to make choices together, tending to the land, caring for the animals, and planning the future of the ranch. Their home is no longer just a place of survival or solitude, it is a space of comfort, love, and mutual respect. The ghosts of the past, the rocking chair, the empty shelves, the memories of Calder's lost family remain, but they no longer dominate the ranch. Elara's presence brings warmth and renewal, and together, they create a life that honors the past while embracing the present and future. In addition to emotional closure, Part 10 emphasizes the themes of agency and choice. Calder could have remained in solitude, bound by grief, and Elara could have resigned herself to a life of rejection. Instead, both took steps, some cautious, some bold, to choose each other. Their union is not accidental or forced by circumstance. It is deliberate, based on respect, courage, and genuine affection. This deliberate choice reinforces the story's central message. True love is built on mutual recognition of worth, not on societal expectation or obligation. The chapter concludes with a sense of enduring hope. Calder and Elara stand together on the porch as the sun sets, hands intertwined, hearts aligned, and eyes reflecting the promise of a shared future. The ranch, once a place of isolation and sorrow, now hums with life and potential. They have built not just a home, but a foundation for love, partnership, and family. Elara is no longer the bride nobody wanted. She is a valued partner, a source of warmth and courage, and a woman who has found her place in the world and in Calder's heart.